Igbo Igbo ekene m unu. Asị m ka nke echiri ya zelu. Asịkwa m n'ụbọchị nke taa dị anyị na mma. Asịkwa m na ya dịka echi na echi ada agwụ agwụ. Otu anyị kwuru otu a ka ọ ya dịrị dị. Ise ise ise. Dịka o si dị unu n'anya n'ilu akwụkwọ, before anyị gaa n'ilu, anyị jigodo mbụrụ ka anyị kene unu. Ebubo ekene na-abịa. Ekene onye ọbụla bụ nwafọ Igbo na-esoro anyị na-eme n'ilu akwụkwọ na Eastern News 24. Asị na Chukwuka abịa ma ya gozi gị. N'ihe ọbụla ị chọrọ na ihe eweta ya bụ ife ọma. Ise ise ise. Dịka o si dị, anyị kwere unu nkwa na gị na-ewetara ya bụ daily update n'ilu akwụkwọ bụ gbasịta maka ihe na-eme n'ala Igbo ana gbasịta maka nwere ụwa na-azọ. Onye na-arụfu n'ilu akwụkwọ a bụ Wole Soyinka orife o kwuru na nke ikpeazụ asị mba na samama nge na mmetiri ụmụnne m bụ ụmụife ka ha soro m wee gee ya bụ ife ka ha n'ife Wole Soyinka kwu gbasịta maka Biafra ka anyị gụọ ya n'onu oyibo before anyị gosi unu ya bụ ife ka unu nene ya. Also, when the people are determined, they are willing to sacrifice anything to prevent their identity. When they feel they are on righteous cause, it is difficult to defeat them. Yes, if there is any military defeat, it is only temporary. The real issue remains unsolved. You cannot defeat Biafra, Wole Soyinka says. Alright, unu ga-egekwa ya bụ ife ka unu soro m wee tụrekwa alụ n'ihe ndị a niile o kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ gbasịta maka Nigeria and Biafra and ihe na-emenụ ya gbasịta anụ ihe dị otu a ji eme n'ala Igbo. Geenụ ya bụ ife unu ga-esi ya ọ na-adọpụrụ kọmentị unu n'iru akwụkwọ n'ife unu chere. Alright, over to you, sir.
More so because of your age, I would imagine you experienced the civil war, and I know you've talked about it as well in other interviews you've given. How would you describe the civil war that Nigeria went through 1967 to 1970? How would you describe it, Prof?
A waste, a total waste, a gross, costly error. It was an avoidable war. It was an unjust war. And I said so at the time, as you probably know, and I was appalled by the fact that we went to war so easily. I should explain that I believe very much in the right of self-determination. Otherwise, what was independence all about? What's the entire struggle for liberation on the African continent all about, if it is not about the right of people to determine their own destiny? And to find us fighting a war to preserve the demarcations inflicted on us by foreign intruders was for me an act of abject mental enslavement. It was surrendering our will and the readiness to go to war and lose close to 2 million people to preserve something which was imposed on us by total aliens. It was for me a humiliating fact. It was worse than a crime against ourselves. It was just a denial of who we were as creatures of reason, of volition, of self-determination. It made nonsense, in fact, of what I considered we were. So, and the consequences are still with us till today.
I know you've met some Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu when you met him when he was alive. Ojukwu, yes, the General Ojukwu. How would you describe him? Obviously, he's the one that led the Biafra war on the Biafra side of things. What kind of a person was he when he was alive? Your interaction with him?
Yeah. A mixture. He was very conscious of his class. I mean, he belonged to he had an affluent father who was a business person. He was sent to the best schools for education. I can't recall whether he went to Oxford. I think he went to Oxford. And when he came back, we met as young people. He was older than I was, of course. And at the beginning, I didn't even like him at all. And that's before I went away. He was very class conscious, yes. Rich, wealthy. He drove a sports car. Me, I trundled along on my father's ancient rally bicycle. I remember very well.
Yes.
And we used to meet at the same area. We had mutual friends.
Yes.
But when he came back, and this happened to so many young people. You can have a very frivolous, uncaring youth, and an issue comes up, which will affect you, and there's a transformation. And so he definitely had a sense. He felt a sense of mission. He became totally committed, to the Biafran cause. And he tried to rise to that occasion as fast and as determinedly as he could. I thought for somebody with that background and with those challenges, he didn't do too badly. He made some terrible decisions, I believe. He also had to accept responsibility for the entire scenario, going to war. After Aburi, there was a chance that the country could have moved a little bit more apart, rather than stick with the kind of regimentation there. And all the leadership at that time, in fact, were culpable. But in my view, we on the federal side had a greater culpability.
Yes. So, you talked of the decisions he made that were terrible, sir. When you compare that to people like Nnamdi Kanu today, people like Nnamdi Kanu trying to resurrect that Biafra spirit, what would you say, or what would your advice to people like Nnamdi Kanu, the Yoruba nation, those people that are agitating for a split from Nigeria? What would your advice or suggestion be to them from your experience?
Well, the first thing I have to say is that I said at the time, and this was what got me into serious trouble, because they felt that by making such statement, in fact, it was singled out. By making such a statement, I was trying to demoralize the federal side and actively promoting the Biafran cause. When I said and I wrote, I said, you cannot defeat Biafra. And people thought I was merely talking of they took a very simplistic approach to understanding that. They thought I was talking about the battlefield, on the battlefield. Well, that was involved as well. Because when the people are determined, they are willing to sacrifice anything to preserve their identity. When they feel they are on a righteous cause, it's difficult to defeat them.
Yes.
If there's any, shall we say, military defeat, it's only temporary. The real issue remains unsolved. That's a lesson of history all over the world.
Yes.
And so when I made that statement, I was saying the Biafra, that notion, that concept, and all that it involved, both antecedents and the present, and also, in fact, including the future, seeing what the people who are determined to go on their own, seeing what they could become. That is part and parcel of the cause. And when you have that kind of binding combination of different causes, it's very difficult to defeat them. And so Nnamdi Kanu represents that concept. He is one of the younger generation who inherited a burden of defeat, of resentment, and a determination, in their view, not to make the mistakes of even their predecessors. They have a new will, they have a new understanding of history. The only problem I had with was the language which Nnamdi Kanu used over Radio Biafra. I listened to some of it, very incendiary,
yes, and
also disrespectful, I thought, of even his own people.
I do agree with that.
The language, I don't want to go into details, but all you have to do is listen to it. So what is represented, in fact, I use this certain expression in recent contributions. What we fought for, those of us who stood on that side, we fought for a Biafra of conscience. And for me, that's very critical. And people like Nnamdi Kanu should not, or IPOP for that matter, or MASSOB, whatever, should not act against what I call the core of our humanity, which is one of conscience. So yes, because for me, nothing surprised me at all. In fact, it just surprised me that it took so long that what you might call the Biafra resurrection to take place in terms of consciousness. Nothing surprised me.
Yeah. Would you say there are similarities with the Yoruba nation and the way they've been treated? So, for example, you have the way Nnamdi Kanu was treated, or is being treated. Nnamdi Kanu is still in prison, DSL jail. Whereas you have the Yoruba nation leader, he was released a few months ago. So would you say there are similarities or differences to these two movements?
It's a mistake keeping Nnamdi Kanu in prison, I believe. To have, in fact, kidnapped him. There's no other word in the first place.
That's true.
He had a right to pursue his cause anywhere he wanted. He was never accused of physically bombing any place, or killing any place. Language, yes, was incited, no question at all about that. But you don't arrest, you don't kidnap people. Buhari seemed to have an obsession with kidnapping people. That seemed to be his trademark.
Modus operandi.
It's like couldn't fulfill himself unless it put somebody in a crate and brought them back. And I think that politically speaking, if they have any real charges against him, well, since he's in their hands, they should try him. All these technical postponements, delays, these tactics of just of avoiding the basic issue, for me, it's just counterproductive.
Yes.
Gbama na-ege ntị, anyị ekenekwa unu ọzọ. Anyị na-ekene unu rinne kunu si wee na-esonyere anyị ọfụma n'ife anyị na-ewetara unu na Eastern News 24 bụ ebe anyị na-eweta mgbasa ozi gbasara maka ka o si ada n'obodo anyị nọ n'ime ya, ana gbasara maka ihe na-eme na Eastern Region gbara gburugburu. Unu anụgo n'ihe nwanne anyị nwoke kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ. Ọ dị mkpa na onye ọbụla gere ya bụ ife maka asị onye nụrụ si mee gịnị ya kọrọ nwanne ya. Unu anụgo ife nwanne anyị kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ dị nnukwu mkpa. Ọzọ dị ka ibe ya bụ ihe a na-eme anyị n'obodo a ka enyi ya emene ya maka ozi ka ọ ya dị. Oge ọbụla na-ekwu ofu okwu, oge ọbụla a na-alụ aka na-ekwu ofu okwu na-ada amịta mkpụrụ. Gịnị ka anyị eme n'obodo a n'ihe a na-eme ndị Igbo? Ọ bụ na ndị ọzọ gbara gburugburu, ndị ọhaneze na ndị ọzọ bụ ndị Igbo ga-etinye anya n'ebe anya n'ihe ndị a niile na-emenụ, ọ ga-abụ ihe nnukwu ihe wenyere ụmụ Igbo. Maka unu n'anya na ka obodo si wee dị, o wezikwa ihe a na-aghọta. Akwa onye ọbụla jikwude eti ife n'ala, and ị na-eti ife n'ala, ndị so na ọhụụ bụ ndị arapụ Naijiria bụ ndị herdsmen si gị mba na ịma nti ife n'ala. Ọ ya bụ nke ka njọ. Obodo gwụrụ agwụ. Mana unu nụrụ ihe nwanne nwoke kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ a. Gịnị ka ị were ikwu n'ụdị nke gị ga-amịta mkpụrụ? Maka anyị ga-esi n'otu a na-atinye na alụ na one day na alụ anyị ya amịta mkpụrụ. Ka ife iwere ikwu gị bụ onye ọma na-ege ntị gbasara maka ya bụ ife ndị a niile ịnụ n'iru akwụkwọ a na Eastern News 24. Kabarụ ka ikwupụtara anyị ya na comment section below. Ọzọ dị ka ibe ya bụ Eastern News 24 ka a sịkwa wee na-wetara ya bụ nnukwu ozi ya dị oke mkpa gbasara maka ife na-eme n'obodo a na gbasara maka ife na-eme n'ala Igbo. Daalụ na ụmụnne m, emesịanụ ụmụ Igbo.